everyone. Welcome to Adobe Spotlight. My name is Alice. I'm your host today. I'm an illustrator based in San Francisco, and I'm so excited to be here with my friend Christina Young. Please give her a warm welcome, everyone. Christina,
Hey,
could you introduce
Alan.
yourself? Hi.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm an illustrator. I'm based in Queens, New York. And I also have a shop called the Bao Bae. So we're going to be talking about my workflow process for designing merchandise for my shop and anything that you guys want to ask.
Yes, please feel free to ask away in the chat. We will be live chatting with everyone and getting those questions over to Christina. Before we get started, if everyone could just feel free to share where you are joining us from, that'd be super awesome. And we always do a random question of the day in our stream. So maybe if you could share what you last ate today, that'd be great. And we will share as well. So Christina, you're joining us from Queens, New York, and you're an illustrator. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about the type of work that you do and just who you are as an artist?
Sure. So I started off as mainly graphic design, and then I found that what I really enjoyed was the illustration side of that. So I started doing more heavy illustration work. My weapon of choice is Adobe Illustrator. I cannot live without vectors. If you asked me to draw anything anywhere else, I probably wouldn't know how to. Um, and oh, should I answer a random question? I ate
Yes, yes.
red bean taiyaki for breakfast.
Oh, cool. Um, love that. What did I last? I just had some oatmeal with fruits. Um,
Nice.
yeah. So we know each other, but I was also wondering if you could also tell us a little bit about your journey of how you got here. Clearly, you are very proficient in Illustrator as well as Photoshop. So could you let us know, like, how did you learn these tools, and then how did you segue that into a career in illustration?
Yeah. So, like I think many of us, not a great thing, but my portfolio is super out of date. So luckily we have Behance. Can we
Yes.
pull up my screen share of Behance? Okay, here we are. So I threw this portfolio together on Behance. It was super easy. And these are some of the recent illustrations I did. I taught myself Illustrator in high school. There wasn't really like a graphic design program in high school, but they had it on the computers. So I just started tinkering with it. And a lot of it was self-taught just from like looking things up on the internet. And then I ended up joining some design communities. Slack was super huge in like the design community world. So I met a lot of people through there and just like chatting with other people helped me learn a lot more.
Yeah.
So can go through.
Yeah, and now you run your shop full time. Your shop moniker is the Bao Bae, and you make a ton of really cool um, merch that kind of, to me, it just like speaks to the like Asian American experience or like your
Definitely.
Asian American experience, like your shared perspective with others. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got started with that and yeah, like I'm just really curious, like how do you go from like you have these skills all the way to like launching a shop and now that's like your full-time job and like a huge commitment, you know?
Yeah. So starting a shop, this is my website, by the way, for my shop. These are all my products that I sell. I make apparel and stickers, pins. I also sell my art prints. And it really started as just like a side passion project. It was something for fun that I was just, you need like a creative outlet. So I was practicing in Illustrator, and I made these stickers that I was like, oh, I might as well try to sell them, see if anybody else likes them. So I launched my shop with only 3 sticker designs. That was it, and that was it for a long time.
Oh,
Um,
wow. So were you doing that when you had another full-time job or was this your full-time job, like full send from the beginning?
Yeah, so I had a full-time job straight out of college. I worked as a brand designer at a tech company, and it didn't last very long. It lasted 8 months before I got laid off from that job. And I think it was 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks before I got laid off was when I launched my online store. So it was just a crazy like clash of things happening at the same time that pushed me to like, okay, well, do I want to stay in corporate? Do I want to pursue? Did I still have this dream of like climbing the corporate ladder and becoming an art director someday? And I realized that I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I started freelancing full time. I had freelanced in college in design and illustration. So it was like natural to get back into it. I just hit up some old clients and was like, hey, I'm available. And then in addition to that, in the free time, I got to work more on my shop. So I was designing new products that I didn't launch until I think a long time later. So it really was just the 3 stickers for quite a while. Um, and yeah, that's how I transitioned over. It was definitely not a conscious decision in the moment. It just kind of fell into place, which I'm very happy about. And we talked about this like an hour ago, how things have come up that made me question, like, do I want to go back into working in-house? And opportunities have come up here and there. And every time I've made the decision, now I get to choose, made the decision to continue pursuing my shop full time. I get to take on really cool client work here and there. Um, and I feel really lucky that I get to do something fun like this.
Yeah, I love that so much. So in your shop, like you mentioned, you do a lot of stickers and you also have enamel pins, various types of washi tape, super cool Haw Flakes sweater design, and shirts. I'm wearing a Bao Bae shirt right now. Um, and so that's a little bit of like the demo that you're going to share with us today as well. Um,
Yes.
of like how you prep your files and design them to be sent off and to be, manufactured for your shop. So yeah, maybe we could just dive into that just to get started. Do you mind just like taking us through your process? Like, let's say you have an idea for like this really cool pin that you want to make, like a Vita soy pin. Like, what's your like next step after that? Like after you have the idea.
Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out here and show you the actual process for
Whoa. Okay.
designing a pin. So I titled this life cycle of a pin, and I'm gonna show you all of these. But I have a design here. Okay, so Alice mentioned a Vita soy pin. If you don't know, that's this little juice box
Yes.
here. It's like
Yes.
sweetened chrysanthemum
My
tea, and they have
childhood.
other flavors. And so I drew this originally as a sticker. It started as a sticker, and uh, when I released it, people were like, wow, this is my childhood. Exactly your reaction before. And so I decided to make it into an enamel pin that was like me trying to level up my products. So expanding into other categories. And I wanted to show what it looks like for anybody that doesn't know what it's like when you send designs to a manufacturer and like what you have
Yes.
to tell them, the details, the specifications, all of that, the decisions you have to go through. So this is what it looks like when I send it to my manufacturer. I send this as a PDF. That's just like this table right here of all the pin
Also,
designs.
in the
Yeah,
chat, Wade, our wonderful moderator, says you're still an art director, just with your shop and merch. So technically, you made it.
it's true. It's true. I think like I mentioned, I had this dream of I'm gonna move to San Francisco and work at a tech company and climb the corporate ladder. And it just
uh,
really it really didn't happen, but at the same time, now I'm running my own business. So I am the creative director of that business. Um, and yeah, things turned out not as expected when I was 18 trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and that's okay.
totally.
Because
Yeah. Also,
uh,
hi to Selena, Shirley, Keys, and Barbara in
hi,
the chat. Hello,
hi
everyone.
guys.
But yes, back to this extremely organized table. Okay, so this is what you would send to manufacturer. So
Yes.
yes, you were saying,
So it's funny you mentioned extremely organized. So when I first started, it did not look like this at all. I kind of had to figure this out each time I made new pins because things would come back just like not the right color. And
oh,
so something that I learned pretty quickly was that you really need a Pantone book. And I know it's not super easy for everybody to get, but I do have a Pantone book. And I
Cool.
do check all of my colors. So when you're making physical products, it's really important that you do check. Um,
So what
and
would
that's
happen,
why,
sorry, to your point earlier, like what would happen if before you would send off this sheet? Like what are some examples of like stuff that could go awry?
oh no, problems that happened.
Just
I
like one or two
remember,
examples.
yeah, I put in an order for a batch of 100 pins, which at the time for me was like, oh, this is a lot of pins. Um, and they just came out the weirdest color.
Oh,
And I didn't like them. Other people were like, oh, it's okay. But everybody says that. But to you yourself as the artist, you're like, this is not how I wanted it
yes.
to come out. It was supposed to be, I drew like a chicken wing, and it was supposed to be like chicken wing color, like
Like
a
brown?
brownish. Yeah, yeah. And it came out like highlighter orange.
Oh, weird.
Um,
Okay.
because yeah, I just didn't really understand how Pantone colors worked. I tried using like the online hex to Pantone, and sometimes it works. But now that I do this as like my full-time business, it made sense to like do things the right way now that I've like
Yeah.
leveled up. I think it's okay to do things in the beginning, kind of scrappy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
And so what happens if you like get back your product and it's like super weird, or it's like not the way you intentioned? Like, do you still have, do they reimburse you? Do they like reprint it for you with the correct color? Do you just have to eat the loss?
Yeah, if it's on them, like the manufacturer, if it's their fault, and the color doesn't match what you said you wanted, then they sometimes will they you can like ask them to remake it, and they're usually pretty accommodating. In that case of the chicken wing, it was
Yeah.
my fault. I had picked a color that I thought worked, but I had never seen the physical like Pantone swatch.
Oh.
So that was just on me. Um,
Oh, I see, I see.
People still liked it though, so it was fine in the end. But I think I'm gonna have to redraw that eventually.
Got it. Got it. Anmar in the chat asks, do you go straight from design to manufacture or do you make a prototype first related to what we're talking about here?
Sometimes I will print things out if I can to get like a feel for um like sizing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't typically make a prototype. I guess that would look like um 3D printing, which is what Anwar does, which is why he's asking. I really appreciate you coming out. Um, I don't do that, but maybe I will in the future because I actually really want to get into making figurines. I really like
Cool.
blind boxes. And so now that I have this amazing friend, Anwar, who does 3D printing, I can always ask him. Shout out to Makers Hub. Um,
Woohoo.
so yeah,
Can't
I
wait
think
to
I'm gonna try
visit.
that. Yeah, Alice is gonna come visit in New York. So I can't wait to try prototyping. I haven't done it yet, other than just like printing it out and cutting it out and double checking
Got
the
it.
sizing.
Yeah, yeah. That is really helpful. Like for those of us who work like primarily digitally, like it is actually really helpful to just like print something out, just like put it on your desk and just like see how it sits. Like I do this sometimes even with just like murals or illustrations because it's
Mhm.
like just seeing it with the light, it's like different from just like seeing it on as pixels on your phone. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of times things you think are going to come out one side because you're used to your super high res
Yeah.
monitor. And then you print it out, you're like, oh, why is it so tiny? Which is actually what happened here. So I had this file. I first made this white rabbit candy pin in 2022. And
Oh,
I just pulled it from an old sticker design. So a lot of times I take my sticker designs. If people really like it, I'll turn them into pins and then maybe apparel later on. That's like later in the cycle. Um, but it came out really, I thought I knew what I was doing. And then I sent it to the manufacturer. I got it back. It was really cute. But it's just like quite small, a little squished together. The details didn't really come up. I'm really heavily zooming in, but you have to remember this pin is like 1 inch. So if you're looking at on your screen, maybe it's like this big.
got it. Got it.
So a
So,
year later, I remade it and I adjusted it a
oh,
little bit. It's still the same size, like it fits in the same size box, but because of the shifting of shapes, it came out a lot bigger.
yes.
So that
Because
happens sometimes.
because you simplified. like the stripes, for example.
Yes.
So
Yes.
in this case, I'm asking for all the shop artists out there, like you get your product back and you're like, shoot, like I wish I had simplified the composition a little bit because it's like looking a little squished. Would you still just, and you maybe you ordered 100 quantity, like would you still sell those 100, or would you like just eat that and then treat that as like a prototype basically and like redo it?
Yeah. So if it's really bad, I will mark it as like a B grade, which lets people know
Mm.
there's like some imperfection. Functionally, it's fine. There's nothing broken about it. It still works as a pin. It's just like I'm not super, super happy with it, or it's maybe like there's like a scratch on it or something like that. But when I released this pin, I thought it was fine because I had nothing to compare to. I was like, oh, it's a little bit small, but like I still think it's really cute. I sold it, people loved it, and it was so popular that I was like, okay, I need to restock it. Before I restock it, let me go through all my files, see what I can improve on. If there's nothing to improve on, I send it to the manufacturer as like a reprint or just like remake. Um, and so they don't have to, like for a pinning, for example, they don't have to make the molds again. It's just the same process again. Um, but if there's something that I don't like or I think that it could be improved on, like this is a whole year, almost a whole year later.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Yeah.
I was like, okay, let me try and tweak it. Um, and then it came
Yeah.
out a lot better. So when you look at them side by side, you're like, oh, clearly one of them is I like the right side better. But at the time I was like, this is fine. I think you grow over time and that's a good thing to like revisit old things and see what you can do better.
Yeah. I also just wanted to give a shout out to Johan for joining us in the chat. Hey, Johan, he says, I have a few of your pins and they're the best quality pins I own. And Shirley also says that she does a lot of printing out paper prototypes just because it's hard to get a sense of size on your screen in Illustrator. So yeah, I mean, clearly we all have so many questions when it comes to this process. And I mean, you're basically you've gotten through like step one. So please continue with
Okay.
where you were in your explanation. But yeah, this is so interesting.
Yeah, so I was mentioning before about the Pantone colors. These aren't even accurate because I think I had to change them when I sent them to the manufacturer. They sent back some edits. So sometimes that happens. You could do a little back and forth. This is me asking people to other people. Actually, I asked Amy, our mutual friend Amy, aka Sailor HD. I knew that she had a Pantone book, like a physical one. So I asked her, and Alice, you're also in this conversation. Can you guys sift through the book with me over a video call and
Oh,
help me
fascinating.
pick the
Yes,
colors for this pin because they just weren't coming out right. And sometimes you have to sacrifice, like you don't get the digital colors that you do in physical products, and that's the nature of physical products.
right.
But I think it's still worth it. Like when I started my shop, I started with just those stickers because I wanted to take things off the screen. I wanted people to appreciate my work, not just looking at an Instagram post, liking it, and then scrolling and never thinking about it ever again. I wanted something that they could hold and keep and stick on their water bottles for the end of time.
Yeah. Yeah. We should get a vote going in the chat of which color people think is their favorite for this Yakult bottle, as well as for the Mahjong cat as well. Even though I know you already manufactured it like a
I
year
did,
ago.
I did. I remember when I got the pins back, I opened them with Amy and I was like, oh no, does this cat look naked? Like this one?
No, it
Does
doesn't.
this cat look naked? Because it
It
wasn't the
doesn't.
color I originally intended. It was supposed to be like this white cat.
I see, I see. I like the like grayer cat too. It kind of looks like a
Yeah.
grumpy Asian dad.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. This is my
cool.
uncle cat.
I mean, that's also a really great point about incorporating feedback as well in your creative process, because I feel like sometimes it can be hard because we're so close to the thing we make,
Yeah.
and just getting like a fresh pair of eyes of like, no, this cat looks totally fine. And in fact, I think the color makes it look even cuter,
Thank you.
it's really helpful.
I appreciate those comforting words. Okay, and then also when you're designing pins or any kind of product, it's really important to keep in mind like what they look like together and the sizing of it. And so when I was designing this set of pins, I was releasing a lot altogether. When I first started, I was only releasing like I think I started with two pin designs, and I had that for a long time. And it took me a while to build up enough like money to be able to purchase a larger set of
Hmm.
designs. And so I was figuring out the sizing of these and clustering them together because I want people to buy more than just one pin. Obviously, like when you're selling something, you like it when people buy multiples. So I wanted to see how they look like together. And then a lot of times people will tell me like, oh, I really like this pin, but I don't know what to do with it. I have nowhere to put it. And so taking that feedback, I created these pin boards. These are laser cut pin boards. Oh, okay. So to Anwar's point about prototyping, I did prototype these, I think with cardboard first. Um, and then I took a laser cutting class in San Francisco. It was only like a 1 hour class, and then they just let you go do your thing.
Yeah.
So I made
Yeah.
all of these pin boards. Um, and that was a way for me to sell my pins, like to display them and show, like, oh, this is how you can use them as a work of art in your home. You can hang it up. Um, and this was also just a really fun, like, one-off project to do to get out again, get out of the digital, but still using digital tools. Like I did do this in Illustrator to set it up for the laser cutting.
Love that. And I loved your point that you made earlier about how you like to put your pin designs close to each other so that you can
Mhm.
make sure the shapes are complementary.
Yeah, like I didn't pick a certain number to fit perfectly on this bag in a nice rainbow arch, but it worked out. So I think that it's important to lay out sets also because I was releasing these, I think, all at the same time. So I wanted to make sure that the photos look good. Thank you, Alice, for helping me with this photo shoot.
Oh yeah, I was so jet lagged that day. I remember. Um, that's so
Um,
cool. Ooh, and then what's the next part?
The next part in our pin life cycle. So I sell to retailers. So I sell to a couple different stores across the country and also in Canada. And this is a store in San Francisco. I went to visit and I was really excited to see my products in their store for the first time. And this is me looking at the very, very bottom of the rack. And I was honestly I was a little sad to see them at the very bottom. But I like still proud. And I think so. I was looking around the store and at the different racks, and I had realized that sometimes bigger isn't always better. Sometimes they tell you when you're doing like packaging design for a shelf, you want to go big and bold so that you take up more space on the shelf. But what happened in this particular store was that they put the larger ones towards the bottom. You can't see it here,
Oh,
but you can see it on other racks where the pins at the top had smaller cards, not necessarily smaller pins, just smaller cards. So then I was working on redesigning them. I also noticed that I didn't put hanging tabs on it, but this store needed hanging tabs. So they put them on themselves.
oh,
So I was like, oh, that's something that I can provide for my customer. I can do it for them so that stocking my products is easier for them.
yeah.
So I tried designing it with this plastic hanging tab, and then eventually I landed on this much smaller card.
Oh,
So if I put this next to here, you can see it's a lot smaller, but the pin is still the same size. And instead of
yes.
using a plastic hanging tab, I hole punched the card, or I got my printer to hole punch the cards for me. And
Oh,
then this is me. So this is me in February 2023. And then I went back to visit in November of the same year, and my products were magically at the top. I think this is before I did the hole punch. So I still put these hanging tabs on myself, but they're different now if you go check out any of my products in any of the stores. And I was very happy to see them at the top. I did not move them. They naturally moved up themselves.
that's amazing. Okay, I love that. And that's a really good tip for people who are thinking about like displaying merchandise in stores.
Yeah, I think it's really important to visit your retailers, or if you don't have retailers, but you want retailers, it's important to visit stores in person and see what the shopping experience is like from the view of a customer, see how
Yeah.
they display their products, and then you can help work, like you can work together with the store, ask them what they need, you'll see what they need, and then you can offer that.
Yeah. Selena says the red backing really helps it stand out too.
Oh yeah,
That's
so
true.
a
Yes.
lot of people, some brands choose to have different backing cards for every pin. I'm kind of a little lazy and I just didn't want to do that. So I use the same backing card for everything. It's this flower design. And I think that also, yeah, it helps it stand out
Yes. It's
in
like very
the crowd.
cohesive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then people go like, oh, I like this pin, so I should look at all of the other ones in this set because this is clearly like a set made by the same brand.
Right. Johan says started from the bottom. Now we hear. That's
Really, it
funny.
really is. Yeah, I remember looking around the store trying to find my pins, and then when I realized they were at the very, very bottom of this spinny rack, just like in the store, I was, oh man, I wish they were higher.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems like so much of this merchandise design process is so iterative. And a lot of it is like
Definitely.
information that you could only really know like with time. Like it's not something you could just like brute force if you just like sat down and really tried to like, crush it in like 2 weeks. It's like some stuff you have to just slowly realize from like getting feedback from your stockists or customers or something. Um, so yeah, that's like really interesting to know. It's like kind of a long game.
Yeah, I think that's why it's also really important to remember that if you're starting a brand or starting out as an artist, comparing yourself to somebody that has been doing this a lot longer, it might motivate you and push you, but
Yeah.
don't let it get you down because they have gone through years of iterations and you don't see
Right. Right.
those beginning iterations unless I guess you've been there from the start, but you don't see all of that like behind the scenes
Like going to the
working up.
store and being like, why are
Yeah.
my pins on the ground or the floor? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known what to do when I first started out. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. It's been a lot of iterations. Sometimes it's even just like small tweaks that people wouldn't notice. Like they
Hmm.
don't know that it's changed, but I have changed it over the years. I edit a lot of my old stuff before I restock it.
Yeah. Whether it's like with your rabbit design, like reducing the number of elements so that it's compositionally tighter and simpler.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's something I wouldn't have known if like that was an old sticker design. So it worked perfectly as a sticker because stickers are a little bit larger. They're like 3 inches. So now you're shrinking this down to only 1 inch and you don't realize that the same file won't work until you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Cool. Um, so moving forward, after this part of the process, what is next in your workflow?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned earlier that a lot of times stickers are like the first part of it. I will design a sticker first because that was what I did primarily when I first started my shop. And then if somebody or if it does really well, it sells really well, people love it, I might turn it into a pin. Um, and then from there, it might make its way this same file into an illustration. And so this is an illustration that I made for an art show in LA. And if you can see this pin design, which is the same as the sticker design, is in
Yes,
this corner.
flakes, by the way, if
Paw
people don't
flakes.
know. Yes.
It's like a fruit jerky flake. If you never
Flake,
had it, you should
yes.
try
They're
it.
like this big. They're like circular. They're like this big. And they're these really tasty little snacks,
It's like
childhood
candy.
snacks. Yeah.
Um, and then this house is that same juice box that I showed earlier. So a lot of times I'll take from old files and remix it into a new composition. I think that I told myself at some point, that's lazy. You need to like draw everything new from scratch or else you're cheating. But it's my drawing that I'm reusing. It's not like I'm like taking from anybody. So I think that it's perfectly fine to remix, improve on your old work. And so that's
Yeah.
what happened here. And then from there, I realized that my following just really loves haw flakes. So I
Yeah.
made it
Haw flakes are
into
beloved.
I made it into a sweater. This is the knit sweater that I released earlier this year, and it sold out. So, or I think I might have like one or two left, but it's super hot out, so nobody's selling sweaters right now. I
It
am
is
going to
hot.
restock these at the end of the year when it gets colder. But yeah, so you can take one design, what started as a sticker is now a sweater. And I wouldn't have gotten to that sweater if I didn't first design this sticker in like, I don't know, 2021 maybe is when I made this.
Yeah. Okay, I have so many questions before we jump to the next demo,
Yeah.
which is also exciting. I've seen your files. Two questions. So, one, I'm just curious, like, do you ever deal with copyright from these brands, like Haw Flakes, for example? Or are they like happy that you're making it's kind of like a compliment in a way. It's like fan art.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
and
um,
then my second question is, for all of this process, since it's so iterative, I'm just curious, like, what percentage of the process, like, do you feel like is the art, and then what percentage is like the business kind of, or like the business design decisions, like, iterating on the backing cards, if that makes sense.
yeah. So to your point about like dealing with copyright, do the brands say anything to me? If we can go to my screen share really quick. This is a design that I made for oyster sauce. If you've used oyster sauce before, this is from a
Love
brand.
it.
Yes, cooking
Yum
staple
yum.
in a Asian
Yes.
household. So this is from a brand
If you know,
called
you know.
Lake Gay, and um, they actually have reposted me before and been like, we love it.
Oh, I love
Um,
it. Okay.
so that's really cool to be like recognized by a brand that creates a household staple product that you grew up with in your kitchen. So I really appreciate cool brands like that. Shout out to Lake Gay. Um,
I've had my stuff. I made like a Pocky ceramic vase, and then Pocky reposted it. And now they're
yeah,
sponsoring
isn't
my
that
workshop. Isn't that crazy?
like wild things can happen to you?
Yeah. Okay. But I'm just curious, if you've ever encountered the dark side of that, like if anyone's ever said anything. If
Uh,
not,
it
then that's great.
it hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But that does bring up an interesting point about like I do want to make more original like from scratch work.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I want to do like with my blind boxes. I made these little steamer boxes last
Ooh.
year.
Okay.
It was
We
like a
should
paper craft.
we should talk about that. I would love to also talk about like your goals and your like dreams,
Yeah, my
your art
dream.
dreams. Yeah.
Well, my
Um,
dream is
yeah.
I would love to explore more in that like mystery bundle surprise thing because it's so fun. I really like blind boxes. I only got into it recently, but I love like the packaging design of them. So when I made like a little steamer box that had um a collection of products and I sold them as like steamer surprise is what I called them. And they
Okay.
were a huge hit. I handmade all the boxes by I had a Smisky box and I cut it and then traced it and then vectored it and then tweaked it, made
We'd
my
love to see it.
design in Illustrator over it. I wish I didn't think about bringing it. Um, And then that's how I made my steamer box. And so something that I really want to do is try out different paper craft techniques. Um, because that's all something that you can do in Illustrator and then use like a cutting machine. At the time I cut it out by hand with an X-Acto and then like used a glue stick. But talking about original content, I want to make little figurines. That's something that I want to 3D print. to put in the boxes. So I think I want to do like a series of this uncle cat because I just think he's so funny.
He is funny.
Just like this grumpy uncle telling you to work hard and study.
Yeah. There was a debate in the chat earlier about if the mustache was a mustache or a mouth.
Oh, it is a mustache. This is based off of like old Hong Kong movies,
Love it.
like the 70s mustache and the glasses.
Love to see it.
But
Um,
good feedback. I needed to know that.
oh, I think it's great as it is. It's like evokes a mouth kind of expression.
Thank you.
Yeah. So also I know that you've prepped a file kind of demoing the way that you break down a vector illustration. Maybe we could jump into that and see a little bit more of your process when it comes to creating something as complex and layered as an illustration.
Yeah, so this is
Ooh,
that same illustration that I showed earlier that I turned into a print for an art show. And I hope yeah, this is a pretty old thing. I think this is from 2022, maybe. So it's a little bit disorganized. I think I've gotten better
it's
about
pretty organized.
organizing.
As
Thank you.
someone who's made illustrations in
Everything is
Photoshop and
layered.
Illustrator, like
Yeah.
it's pretty organized, I would say.
I I'm a stickler for naming your layers. I think it's very important because it's not even for other people to look at my files. It's for me to remember what the heck I'm doing. So here's one illustration that I started with. So I started with this house. Can I bring it out here? So this was that juice box that I had. And the way that I drew this whole thing was last time we were on Adobe Live, I demoed how to do isometric illustration.
Yeah.
This is not that. This is another style that's also falls in the category of like 2.5D.
Oh, how come
I've
this isn't isometric?
I don't know the science of it, but
Oh,
according to Google, this is called cabinet.
oh,
I don't know anybody that calls it that like in real life. But, you know, when you learn things on the internet and not at school, you just make up your own process. So basically, what I found was that this was a lot faster to draw in instead
oh,
of isometric. Like I feel like I'm pretty fast in isometric using the 3D tools in Illustrator. But this one is even faster and it has a different kind of effect, more like maybe storybooky. But basically, I just have the pen tool. I'm trying to make like a cube.
yeah,
I just hold down shift and it gives you that 45-degree angle.
yeah.
Um, and that's how I do this. So I'll do it like this. Let me make this another color so you can see. So this is my 45 degrees. I will shape builder that last corner off
Oh,
and
cool.
then
Wait, how did you just do that?
just bring this down. Oh, so shape builder. How can I show you this? So if I'm gonna make something like this square,
Yeah,
it's basically just a sheared 45-degree square.
yeah,
There is like a shear tool,
yeah.
I think, an object transform. Let's see how I can, different ways to do this. Object transform shear
Right.
45. Yeah, so that's that.
Oh,
Or what you can do, which I think is faster than going through all the menus, is just like this. So you have this little tail
yeah,
because if you don't do it, you don't know where to
right.
click for the
Yeah.
45. And then I do Shift M, which brings up the shape builder tool.
Oh,
If you don't use shortcuts, it's in your menu. It looks like two circles. It's called the shape builder tool.
oh,
Um,
cool.
and then if I want this triangle to be a shape, I can just click it and you see there's like a little plus sign. Or
Yeah.
I can hold down Alt and delete it. And then now this
Oh,
is a shape.
oh, wow. That is fascinating.
So
Oh my
there's many
gosh.
different ways to draw the same thing. I think
My mind is blown.
yeah, that's why it's so cool watching other people work because you see like there's so many different ways to make a
Yes.
square, which is bizarre,
Yes.
but people do it in different ways. And so
Yes.
that's how I drew this whole
It's
thing.
like the
And then,
time I showed you how I make flowers is like the radial
oh
repeat thing.
yeah, and I started using that. I actually used it for, ooh, wrong one. I used it for this because you taught
Oh,
me
yes,
this.
yes, yes, yes. Do you want to just show people really quick? Because I actually
Oh,
feel like I feel like it's such an underrated tool. So you make a circle.
okay, let me
Okay,
unlock this.
I'll just lay some context. You could,
Yes.
so if flowers like six or five petals, circles. So you could do a circle and then rotate it like 6 times, like 60 degrees each time. So it's like 360. Or you could do what Christina's doing right now, which is make a
Which is
circle,
something that I vaguely remember, but Alice, you should say the
then
steps out loud.
object.
Object.
Wait, no, it's no, edit maybe.
Oh, here.
Do
Okay. It's
radial.
an
Yeah, sorry.
object repeat radial.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then you get this super cool thing. And then you can adjust the number of instances of the object as well as like, yeah, do that. And you can also make the radial degree like higher or lower. So you can bring the circles closer to each other. Isn't that so cool? And so you could do, if you have a really complex
Mm.
design with like a lot of different petaled flowers, you could like very easily, like you can change the petal. You can make it like pointy and then like all the petals are pointy.
Oh yeah,
So
you can do that like with a.
yeah.
Let me do. Okay, this is how I would make a leaf.
Oh, fascinating. I'd love to know how you make a leaf. Oh, that's how you make leaves?
Okay, let me
Oh,
let me bring it back. Okay, so we have a circle. I
yes.
select the top 2 points,
Okay.
and then I hold down S, which is this tool over here, scale tool. So it's
Whoa.
scaling the handles of the top
Oh,
and bottom only. And then
okay.
I just bring them in. I
Oh,
hold down shift. So you see how it says with 0%. So
yes.
I'm holding down shift to lock it into like increments.
I did not know you could do this.
And then that's how I make a leaf, or I guess this could also, we were talking about petals. And then we go back into object, repeat, radial, boom,
Fascinating.
flower.
Flower, boom. That's so interesting. I don't do that for leaves. I'll definitely do yours now, but I would like make half of a leaf and duplicate it.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. I love showing people how I duplicate and like mirror things. So you would do something like this, right?
Yeah,
And
basically.
this edge is a free edge. So how I do it is I have a keyboard shortcut linked to an action. If you don't know what actions are,
Oh,
it's basically you record a series of steps. So you can do that in Illustrator. Also, you can do that in like Lightroom, Photoshop. So I would use my action for duplicating. It's basically just recording when you like Alt arrow key and then arrow key back, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So I just press F2. If you saw it really quickly, okay, I'm gonna zoom in.
Okay.
Hopefully you catch this. So F2, and it like flashes a little bit. So now this is a duplicate. If you go into my layers, you see that there's 2 of them now. And then I hit O.
Yeah. At
I
the
make
anchor
the
point.
anchor point at the top. And then I hold down shift so that it mirrors
Yeah.
at the 90-degree increment. And then I join with Control J, the 2 ends.
Yes. Yes, that is how I would do it. But I think I like your way better. So I'm going to try that.
Many
Um,
different ways.
this is fun. I love to see how people do things. Like, okay, we could go on and on, but for example, another way is like another fun prompt is like, how do you make a heart?
Oh yeah, I've
There's
seen
like
a
a
lot of
boring way,
people.
but there's like more fun way too.
Okay, I know that there's many ways. I,
There's
I
many
have
ways.
tried, I've tried using them all. I still stick to like my original way, which is just like if you're comfortable with the pen tool, it's not that bad to
Yeah.
do it like this.
I like doing it this way because you can make a juicier heart. Um,
Yeah, I think with the other ways, oh, this is not
there's
looking very good,
also
but
there's also a way that's like you make a rectangle and then you like round the top 2 corners of the rectangle, rotate it 90 degrees, and then you like flip it. But it's a very like clinical looking heart. Like this way I like a lot because you can have juicier hearts. Like
okay, I know this isn't going to be a very good one. It takes a lot of finagling.
Yeah.
to break
Yeah.
apart.
To
But
get the
yeah,
little
I would
like
duplicate this.
the like
Oops.
indent part. Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
join and join. And there's my black heart,
Yes.
gold black heart.
The
Yeah, so there's a
boring
lot of
way,
different ways.
the boring way is like you make a rectangle and then
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's
yeah,
like
you
this.
round the top two and then you like rotate it 45 degrees on the side and then you flip it on the bottom corner. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, but then you can't edit it.
You can't.
Like
No,
how do
yeah,
you?
yeah,
Yeah. So I just do it because sometimes you want different styles of hearts.
yeah,
So I just do it with one curve and then mirror it.
yeah. That is really fun. There should be a like a some kind of challenge show where people like you're
Oh,
like make
should
a
we?
yeah,
Is anybody interested in
should
that?
we?
Should we do that? I would love to.
Where
I
it's
would love
like
to
make a
do that.
bird and then you're like, okay, make sure to make a bird.
I think it would
Um,
be so fun to like challenge people in Illustrator or Photoshop, anything, how you draw things. Um,
yeah. Or it could be like increasingly difficult. Like make a car or like make a pair of glasses.
out of only rectangles,
Shapes. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Geometry. Yeah. Cool. So
Um,
we've got about we're 10 minutes left. So also feel free to ask Christina all your questions in the chat. And I'll be relaying them over as we have been. But Christina, yes, back to your demo.
oh
You were
yeah.
sharing with us how you break down the different elements and layers of your piece.
Yeah, so I'll jump over to another illustration. This is a sketch that I started with. Or I guess I shouldn't say I started with this. It looked very different in the beginning. So this is like a round 5 sketch. And I always draw in red. I don't know why. It feels like less permanent. I like to do very scribbly. So the things are in black are like the permanent things, and things in red are kind of like when your teacher goes and marks up your paper.
So
And so these are your corrections.
for
Oh
context, do
yeah.
you mind sharing what this is?
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. This is a illustration that I made for a jigsaw puzzle. So if I take off the sketch, this is what the jigsaw puzzle looked like. And trim here. So if you zoom in, you see like the die line, the cut line for the puzzle pieces.
Cool.
I'll bring this
Um,
sketch back up.
Daniel in the chat would like to know, how do you maintain colors when creating apparel? Like, does it drastically change from design to product?
Ooh, that is a
That is a good
good,
question.
that's a good question. Okay.
Yeah.
Switch directions. Let's look at this Flake sweater that I made.
Sure. Let's go over
Um,
here.
yeah. So this is what it looks like when you send things to a manufacturer.
Fascinating.
You give them like the general shape of it. You say like, I want a knit sweater. And you give them the dimensions for everything. So these were all like in centimeters. And you can use a Pantone book, but you have to be careful about like it's material based. So I have this Pantone book, which is solid coated. So that's useful for
Oh.
like the hard, shiny things like an enamel pin, but that wouldn't work for a knit sweater like this. So I
Oh.
gave them like the general colors that I wanted, and then they sent me back this like a whole booklet of threads for the material that I wanted. It's 100% cotton. And then I had to pick from the thread codes and then send them back this,
Do they
picking
charge
all
you
the
for
colors.
this?
So you
Like
get
this
charged
book?
for this sample. For the book,
Oh.
no, because I had asked for it after I
Hmm.
had ordered the sample. So
Oh,
this
okay.
is for like if you want to iterate on it later.
Yeah.
But they also like they send you pictures, but it's hard to tell from like a photo.
Yeah.
You want to see it really in front of you. And then I just sent back like my edits. So they sent me a picture of the actual sweater made, and then I marked it up and said like this is what I want changed. And then this was the final thing. So when you're designing for apparel, you do have to keep in mind that you can't get the colors that you get on your screen
Yeah.
in physical materials exactly all the time. You can only get so close. So sometimes you just have to be okay with it. But I always recommend like getting the actual material, seeing it in person for yourself. So seeing the threads, or like if I design an old pin and I made it with a specific color and I get the pin back and I can see it in person, I know that I can reference that color every time. Um, but even then, there's still risks involved. Like there's like I think 10% variance of what's acceptable in color matching.
So
So
you just have to like
just have
accept
faith.
it. Yeah.
Just believe that it's gonna come out how you want it to. And order a sample first. Make sure you
Yes.
order a sample
And
first
ask
before
your
you.
friends for emotional support when you open
Yes. Yes.
your package if you're nervous.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Cool. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left in our stream. So as we kind of, do our final walkthrough, um, Christina, I was just wondering, like, we've talked a lot about your journey and how you've built your shop, um, to what from three stickers to what it is now with so many different product types like apparel, tape, enamel pins, etc. But I'm just like really curious, like, what are some of your dreams? Like you mentioned having figurines, as well, and like 3D printing your own designs, OG designs, but or OC, sorry, original characters. But yeah, I was just like wondering what your hopes and goals are for your work and your business.
Yeah. So I actually recently got a art studio that I share with some friends, and Alice is going to come visit very soon.
Woohoo!
And so getting this space has opened up a lot of new opportunities for my business. I go there and I pack orders. Um, Alice and I chatted previously about like how to store inventory. So at some point you grow your business to a point where you can't just have it in your living room all the time. You have to get a space for it. So I have all my inventory there now, and it's opened up a lot of fun stuff. So like now I am back to doing some laser cut projects. I want to make more um, physical, tangible wall art, not just
Oh,
accessories. So I want to do something like that. I already started, and it's all piggybacking off of the pin boards that I made last year. So like I learned laser cutting for that product specifically, but that skill now transfers over to other things that I want to do now that the doors are open. And yeah.
yeah, that sounds so fun. And thank you to Wade for including Christina's Instagram handle
Oh, thank you.
at the Bao Bae shop, as well as at Christina C. Young in the chat. Um, cool. Yeah, we've just got a few more minutes left, but Christina, yeah, is there anything else that you could share with us about this awesome haul? Yeah. Haul,
Well,
haul,
okay,
yeah.
not about
Sweater.
not about the sweater, so we could take off the screen share. But I know that we actually, Alice and I had talked about this stream before and how it was going to go. And I totally forgot we wanted to talk about like community and the importance of community. So
Yes.
I just want to leave everybody with some parting words of like, make sure you find that community that really pushes you. I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that encourage you. Like when I got laid off from my job as a graphic designer, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep doing design. Like, you waver a lot. And it was my online friends in design that were like, no, keep going. You can do this. Or like, yo, that sticker is really cool. I would buy it.
Yeah.
And friends like that get you to believe in yourself more, which I think is really, really helpful. And I definitely would not have had the experience that I had making this brand, other art
Yes.
opportunities without that. So like Alice and I became friends on the internet, and now we're here.
Yeah.
Um,
Or it's like Christina and I were saying before, like we don't have coworkers if you're like a freelance artist, like independent artist. So it's up to us to find that support within each other, whether that's doing like get a friend and do like weekly feedback sessions like we're doing, or have a group where you could be like, hey guys, I just got my pins. What do you think real quick? That's like so invaluable. And hopefully maybe this Adobe community is a good start as well. Um, so yeah, thank you everyone for joining us on our stream. Christina is at Christina C. Young. I'm at by Alice Lee. We will be back with the roles flip-flopped. I'll be the guest and Christina will be the host on July 10th, which is next Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. I will be showing how I do my whole process for murals in Photoshop. And coming up next, we've got famous logo typefaces with Ryan Selvey. So yeah, but thank you to everyone for joining us on this stream, as well as to Adobe for having us and Christina for being a wonderful guest. Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.